Today in Sunday school, we talked about Mephibosheth. You know the story about Jonathan's son. He was the one who was crippled. At the time, he was 5 years old. And then David, later on, instead of seeking him out and killing him as would have been expected, David calls forth for Mephibosheth to come live with him at his table, even though he's helpless. It's a sign of grace. It's a sign of love. It's a picture of God's relationship with us. When we're totally helpless, we don't deserve it. We deserve God's wrath. Because of Jonathan the son, he loves Mephibosheth. And because of Jesus the son, God doesn't show wrath toward us, but loves us. But there's something that I really liked about that story that's subtle, that I wanted to talk to you today about just for a couple of minutes, and it's really short. In 2 Samuel chapter 4, whenever the big war is going on and everybody's dying and all the people are in danger, there's a nanny or a nurse who sees Mephibosheth. He's 5 years old, and she decides that she's going to carry him away from the danger. It says, now Jonathan, Saul's son, had a son who was crippled in his feet. He was 5 years old when the report of Saul and Jonathan came from Jezreel. And his nurse took him up and fled, and it happened that in her hurry to flee, he fell and became lame, and his name was Mephibosheth. Because of her hurrying, because of the fleeing, and because of her not taking the time to make sure things were safe, this kid was lame from 5 years on the rest of his life, was completely dependent and had to be carried around everywhere he was, and basically just had to wait for the day to die. And then David came calling, and he was restored to the master's table. But that's not the cool part. You see, that nurse was guilty her whole life. Maybe she should have done something different. Maybe she ruined this kid's life. Maybe he could have been a prince or a king. Maybe, and was racked with guilt. I would bet you would be, wouldn't you? If you were trying to save your 5-year-old and did something that made them crippled for life and they couldn't walk. That's what happened with this woman. But you know, God in his time did something very powerful, because whenever Mephibosheth was brought back to the palace, he had a son named Micah. And that one had a son, and that one had a son, and that one had a son. And when you get to the book of Esther, you find out that Mordecai comes from Kish the Benjaminite, the same family. And when you look at the Jewish writings and the Targums, you see that that family from Mephibosheth was the ancestor of Esther. You know what Esther did? She saved the nation when they were in exile. She was the queen who stood with the king and saved the Jews, saved the Israelites. And this is my encouragement to you. Even though it looks like things may not work out, even though you may have made mistakes in the past, even though you may have fallen down or stumbled, God in his time has some things that could be very miraculous if you turn back to him. What seemed to be a mistake was really a miracle, and this falling down saved the kid and ultimately saved a nation. And that nurse would never see it this side of heaven. That's my encouragement to you. Every little thing matters. And if you turn to God, even if you have fallen down, he can redeem you and restore you and do something great. Amen.